When we're talking about how manifestation actually works in this world, so there are certain universal laws on this planet that are applicable for everyone. Like, let's say, okay, we all have we're connected to the earth, there's gravity, there's the law of cause and effect, for example. There are some spiritual laws that are just like the foundation of this world. If we're now looking at manifestation, it always comes from formless into form. So that means someone has an idea and then we make that happen. There's a lot of self-healing for you included. So let's say we learn inner child healing. First you will receive inner child healing to really understand it to the depth, and you can do many inner child healing sessions actually. It's unfortunately that we have multiple traumas, not just one. And then in the second week we learn how to facilitate that, and in the third week ideally we have just a Q&A session, and then they can start practicing.
Welcome to this new episode, and today I am here with Mona. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Very nice. So Mona is a facilitator for multiple holistic modalities. So she's trained in different holistic modalities as well. And first question, what is your story in life?
Well, I have a background in normal life actually. So I used to work in marketing, and I was living in Hamburg and in Berlin. So originally I'm from Germany. And I was living the high life, so to say. It was very adventurous, but beautiful as well. I loved to work with creatives together, and we had a lot of fun, and it developed my skill in marketing, which is also still useful today in the work I'm doing now. But at some point, there was a point like in my early 20s where I think I had already a midlife crisis, where I was questioning everything. I was like, oh, I was so good in school, and now I'm working in advertisement. Like, what am I doing with my life? So like all these questions came up, and somehow I made peace with that, but something very essential happened at that time. My dad called me and asked me to come to India for the first time. And I did a Panchakarma treatment, which is like a 3 weeks physical cleanse. And that was basically my entry point into the spiritual world, and changed a lot, because the most profound experience I had back then was to learn to do nothing and to be peaceful. And that state lasted actually really long for me. And that was kind of like, the springboard into that world for me.
That's lovely, you say, learning to do nothing. It's very hard from a Western person in a career that has many years of just being busy all the time, just to slow down and have a empty mind, so hard. But there are a couple of things you said there that's quite interesting. First of all, what is your father's connection with India?
So my father actually also has a completely different background. He went the year before for the very first time, and since then he went for every year actually. Now he even has an apartment there, and he lives part-time there, so he goes I think 4 months a year to go there. And he's also teaching yoga, so he inspired me to become vegetarian, and I had a good influence from this side,
Very nice. So you have this side of your family that is more linked to yoga, and also India, which is of course one of the most fantastic countries. If you want to learn about mysticism, look for yourself. Spirituality is everywhere there. It's so intrinsic in the environment. And was he always in love with India, or something that he developed later in life as well?
No, absolutely not. He also when my parents met, he was actually the owner of a restaurant and of a couple of bars, so completely different life, as well. But I think the most inspiring part is that he showed me that you can change everything in life, you can really turn 360 degrees, maybe even 3 times in your life. So that was really inspiring.
And it is becoming more common, I suppose, these days. People at least changing career once or twice, but some other people more meaningfully changing lifestyle, like we did, right? And can I ask about your mom? Was she sort of supportive?
Yeah, I mean, my mom is also super open-minded, luckily. I mean, I was quite a rebel as a teenager, so they had to allow a lot of things, but she was very supportive, of course, as well. She might not be as connected as my dad to that whole world, but she's curious, so she tried out yoga as well and other things, and she's also coming to the island soon, so she wants to see that whole world where I'm living in now, too.
That's lovely to have parent support, because some of the stories that I was able to cover with these interviews, sometimes parents they're more sort of mainstream conventional, don't really support the children very much, whilst in your case you had a supportive family. That's an advantage for sure. But I'm sure it still was hard to move from a more conventional lifestyle and also a good sort of corporate job. Yeah, you're saying you were working in marketing, in advertising. Any specific industry or particularly any client?
Yeah, I was working for all the big clients. I started working for Mercedes-Benz, for McDonald's, for Deutsche Bank, like really all industry actually through. So I was working for big clients and the best agencies actually, mainly focused on the digital world. And yes, there was kind of like, oh my gosh, no, she's moving to Thailand and it's so far away and we don't see her anymore. But for me, it was like, okay, before I was living in Hamburg or in Berlin, means also not at home. And I was seeing my parents anyways just a few times a year. So for me, it didn't really make a difference so much. And I could finally follow my heart, like really, yeah, living in paradise and just doing what I love doing.
And when was that? Recently or?
No, I mean, that's a while ago. That must be almost 12 or 13 years ago. It was kind of like an ongoing journey. So I think like the next step was that I left the agency world in terms of a full-time position. I became a freelancer, and that opened up a lot more freedom for myself because first of all, I earned much more money than before, and I could take holiday whenever I wanted. So I was just working half a year, and the rest I was traveling. I was drinking a lot of plant medicine all over the globe and just developing myself, did my yoga teacher trainings, my coaching training, and so on and so on. So it was a continuous journey. I didn't have this typical breakdown or like depression, where people have this reset point and then they change. For me, it was more a subtle journey, although I have to say the next milestone in this journey was really my first sabbatical. So I was still working full time, and I think that was in 2016, where I went traveling for the first time for 3 months. And this was a dream I had like since school actually, and I haven't fulfilled that. And then I finally had 3 months for myself traveling through Asia. So I was the first time actually in Thailand, in Malaysia and in Laos. And I didn't expect it to be like this eat, pray, love holiday, but it was exactly that.
Wow!
Yeah,
so much fun.
Yeah, so it was actually a big journey to reconnect with myself. And I did my first Vipassana there, and then just after that I started drinking medicine, and that was a real accelerator in this whole path.
And when you started actually sort of holding space for people, was it firstly with the coaching, with the yoga, or what modality was your first modality?
Yeah, yoga was the first modality I started teaching. I always had the urge to actually add more and a little bit more of personal touch, so the coaching helped me then more. And it was also great that I didn't learn coaching from a person who taught like coaching by the books and you have to do like this. She was actually encouraging us to bring your personal style into that. So I already included my intuition, which is really strong, into that coaching piece, and worked a little bit more holistically because I knew practices from yoga, whereas like you could like also include pranayama like breathwork and other like somatic exercises to bring people more into balanced state. So that was really like the journey for me. Yeah, yoga definitely first, and then step by step there was more
modalities added. And this is quite a sort of typical journey for a teacher, a holistic teacher, I think, where you maybe start with yoga, or some could be meditation, could be Buddhist style, Vipassana, and then you develop, and then your thirst for like for more, it manifests itself with more courses, more specializations. Then you start sort of, having more clients, maybe holding space in classes with more people. It's a bit of a journey that typically takes quite a few years to fully manifest, right? But now you are at this stage in life where you are holding space for people to teach them how to facilitate themselves.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, exactly. So I'm still giving healing sessions. So my main one-on-one tool is quantum healing, but I also offer several workshops to kind of like really cover the holistic healing approach, because on my personal healing journey, I just understood that trauma is quite complex and it doesn't help to just talk about it. Okay, the mental is one layer in the whole journey, but there's more than that. And to really go deep and heal trauma, we need to see a person as a whole. So we also need to touch base with all other layers. And from that journey and from all that experiences and working with people, I developed my own facilitator training, which is called the School of Light. So it's for people who are interested to step into the role of becoming a facilitator for holistic healing. That means they learn multiple tools and practices on all layers of existence. That means we work with the body, we work with the emotions, we work with the mind, so reprogramming the subconscious mind, but we're also working with the soul and with the energetic field of the body.
Okay, so you mentioned quantum healing, and I'm very intrigued to know a little bit more about quantum healing. Of course, quantum physics is something that I wouldn't say I'm familiar with, but I've heard of, because it seems quite complex. But what is quantum healing?
Yeah, I often actually tone it down and say like, okay, I do energy healing to, not scare people and think like, oh my gosh, what is she talking about, right? And I also like to explain it in a very practical way to take a little bit the woo-woo factor out of it, because people might be like, I can't relate to that, right? But if we're thinking about, as I mentioned before, like we have these different layers, right? We have a physical body, we have emotions, we have thoughts, we have a soul, if you believe in that or not, that's up to you. I always say I'm a big supermarket and you can buy any products you like, but you don't have to buy everything. And we have an energetic field, right? And so when we're talking about how manifestation actually works in this world, so there are certain universal laws on this planet that are applicable for everyone. Like, let's say, okay, we all have we're connected to the earth, there's gravity, there's the law of cause and effect, for example. There are some spiritual laws that are just like the foundation of this world. If we're now looking at manifestation, it always comes from formless into form. So that means someone has an idea and then we make that happen, right? I always give that example, Steve Jobs, he dreamt about the iPhone, then he got excited about it, then he took action and manifested it, he produced it. So, but this iPhone won't necessarily go back into the ether, won't go back into the consciousness, right? So, manifestation always flows down. That means if something is in the physical body, it is basically the last station. I'm not saying you're doomed if something happens in your body, but even Albert Einstein said if we have a problem that occurs on a certain level, we need to go on a different level to solve it. Like we need to go higher to really go to the root cause. So if we're now thinking about okay, we have energy field, right? We can also call it source, God, the universe, however you want to call that. The consciousness wants to express itself through us. So it drops down ideas into many heads. That's why sometimes many people have the same ideas, but not everyone is manifesting it, right? Not everyone has the bravery or the guts, to really make that happen, or just simply not the resources. It could be also the case. And then when we have that thought, our thoughts are influencing our emotional state. So that means if I think positively about something, I feel great, right? If I think negatively about things, I don't feel so good. So it's all influencing each other. So if we're now thinking about energy healing in the quantum field, that means if we pull the plug up here, it ripples down automatically in all other layers.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's why it's so powerful. And actually the way how it works, I actually go through the physical sensation slowly up. That means, okay, what do we feel in the body? What emotions are connected to that? And then we're tapping into fields that can be the past, can be the future, can be even past life, to really see where the pain came from. And then feeling what is often unfelt and releasing that and creating a lot of freedom and lightness, yeah.
I love what you say. It reminds me a little bit of Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's one of my favorite teachers that I just love to listen to. And the quantum field of opportunities, etc. And I am one of these, I'm quite lucky in the sense, I see myself as lucky because I can quite well distinguish my body from my mind, from my soul or spirits, or the Atman, so to speak. And I've been working with these three concepts for quite a few years now. So let's say for me, the biggest challenge typically is the mind, because I can get stressed, I can get a little anxious, I can get a little bit down, etc. And if I have a challenge of sort, with the mind, I can either go into the body by doing physical activity, like going for a hike, etc., or I can go into the spirit, through meditation, vipassana, TM, energy healing, etc. And either going up or down kind of like makes the mind come down in a way or another, so that's wonderful. But then the idea that, you can manifest in the physical world when you have a concept or even an energy that comes through the physical world in order to manifest something that you want to do is very, very beautiful, right? And that's what I think Joe Dispenza also says, that if you have a thought of an idea and a positive emotion attached to it, it's a lot easier than to manifest it in the physical world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
is
exactly.
that right?
Yeah, exactly. Everything is influencing each other, right? Like it's not like, even though the flow of manifestation comes from top to bottom, so to say, but all layers are interconnected with each other and they're also influencing each other. So as you said, right, like when you have like negative thoughts or you're in a limbo a little bit, you can go also in a layer down, like in the physical body, to kind of like influence your mind. It is, even though the flow of manifestation is going from top to bottom, still all the layers are influencing each other. So we can also like work with the body to influence the mind. Yeah, that's really beautiful.
And the spirit is much more powerful though, right? Isn't it? Even if I feel like I'm getting a little sick for whatever reason, all I need is to like spring up my energy, do some, strong breath work and then some sort of like a chakra meditation, and I feel the body comes down, the mind is relaxed, my immune system kicks in. Maybe it's just a sensation, but it works very well for me. I very rarely sick, But tell me a little bit more about the modality itself. So you're doing one-to-ones with people. How does it actually work?
Yeah, so it works remotely via Zoom or also in person. It doesn't really matter. I actually finally started it via Zoom. And it works like that. I guide the clients into a very relaxed state. So kind of like similar to Shavasana at the end of yoga. It's just simply because when we're relaxed, we have a better connection to our physical body. And we also like shut down the mind chatter a little bit, right? So then I will open an energetic field around that person so things can happen quicker, can be processed quicker, and we see things more clearly. And then I will ask you, okay, what do you feel in your body? Like maybe you want to scan your body from the top of your head till your feet, and whatever pops up, let me know what you feel. So we're all the time in communication. I'm not sending you into space or something like that. So you will be present with me, and we're doing it actually together, because I think it's very valuable if the client learns exactly what's happening, to take the tools also to a certain degree back home and knows like, wow, I feel empowered because I am able to shift that, right? So there's a beautiful empowerment piece in there. And then we see, let's say, okay, people feel maybe a heaviness on their chest, and then we're asking, okay, like, how does it feel? Describe it maybe a little bit more. Is there a form? Is there a shape? Is there a color? And then we go deeper and see what emotion is actually connected to that. And that emotion will guide us often to the point where it actually originally came from. And I would say 80 to 90% of all my sessions are inner child healing, because the first 6 years are so vital to us, that shape our whole personality. And because we're still children, we're still in development, like often we don't know how to feel, we don't know how to process emotions, or we don't have the support that is needed to actually feel that. And it's just simply too much for our nervous system. And so then we allow us to feel what got stuck back then, and we also have a look, okay, what story did you actually tell yourself back then that imprinted a belief system that is still shaping your reality now, but has nothing to do with it now. So why can we not like update that software, so to say? Like if you look at your iPhone or your MacBook or any other computer, you have how many software updates do you have to do? But how often do we actually update the software up here? So it's really crucial actually to live freely and live your full potential to update that. And through that, of course, because we're also working like in the energetic field, if it's needed, we bring back soul parts, because if severe trauma is happening, it can be that the soul literally splits because the pain is too much and says like, okay, ciao, it's too much for me. So we bring these parts back, so that has the effect that the person feels more whole, more content, in a way that is maybe a little bit hard to describe, because, I mean, I don't know how you feel, but it's maybe hard to describe how my soul feels right now,
Yeah,
right?
for most people, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned about the soul and delved into it in so many ways. It's one of my favorite subjects of speculation, let's call it. But then I translate it into physical, like emotional sensations, right? Okay, so that's very cool, very interesting. You know, I think it would be very, very interesting to, you know, to try a session. At the same time, you also mentioned that you are now. So, can you tell us the story of the House of Light?
Yeah. So that's a project we're birthing at the moment, my partner and me, and so I mean I have the School of Light, which is my facilitator training, and I am very connected to one specific plant. I dieted once, and it's kind of like a tree of light, and I'm really connected to this, like bringing more light, like just simply higher vibration into this world, to help us to just have higher states of consciousness, so we understand like we're interconnected, we're all one. You know, if I would harm you, I would also harm myself. There's no separation in that sense, and just helping people to connect deeper to themselves, to feel more authentically themselves, and feeling more peace and harmony within themselves, because this will have a ripple effect in their relationships and in the way how they treat other living beings, but also the environment. So that's really one of my bigger visions. And with the House of Light, we want to create a boutique studio here on the island, and offer certain modalities, like different things like breathwork, yoga, but also workshops where we do more deeper healing work to kind of like help people to come back. Plus, we also love to have fun, you know, like it doesn't have to be always deep trauma work. So we're also hosting cacao ceremonies and ecstatic dance to really elevate the frequency.
That's lovely, because of course with Adrian you've been doing these sort of workshops for quite a few months, right?
Yeah.
So okay, so you have now this physical space in Koh Phangan with all the classes and this boutique sort of a school or space, yes? And you got the online that you're doing, and the trainings for facilitators at the same time. So it seems like, wow, there's a lot that you're manifesting, is that right?
Yeah, I'm a manifester. Like I work better when I have 5 projects at the same time rather than just one, so yeah.
That's wonderful. And in the training for facilitators, I mean, can you tell us a little bit more about it? How long it is, how does it work?
Yeah, so it's a 1-year training, it's online, and it's really beautiful because you can actually jump in whenever you want. So it's very modular. We go through all the modules, like from body till energy, but we also have modules like space holding and business to really prepare you fully and holistically to step into that role and also feel confident, right? Like it's not just about learning the tools, but also like, okay, now I have to go out and teach. How do I actually present my offer? How do I create my offer? And giving like really all input that is needed. So it's a whole year, 2 months are off, and it's basically like an ideal month would look like in the first week you receive the module for yourself, so there's a lot of self-healing for you included. So let's say we learn inner child healing. First you will receive inner child healing to really understand it to the depth, and you know, like you can do many inner child healing sessions actually. It's unfortunately that we have multiple traumas, not just one. So, and then in the second week we learn how to facilitate that. And in the third week, ideally, we have just a Q&A session, and then they can start practicing. Plus, on top of that, in each module, they have a self-study part to really expand their knowledge, their field of interest, and their own personal experience. So in every module, they have to choose one practice that they practice over 2 months. Let's say in the body module, they can either choose to have a certain daily practice, they can choose to change their nutrition, for example, or they can experiment with their sleep and maybe even the hour before going to sleep, like everything that is connected to the physical body, or doing practices to regulate the nervous system.
Okay.
And then it's more about like documenting the journey, how to create a new habit, because you know, like you can go to as many ceremonies or you light a million incense sticks, you know, but that's not the point. The point is everyday life, how we are interacting with others, but also how we're talking to ourselves. So that means creating this new little micro habits is such a crucial skill to actually really implement big change, right? It's like the small little decisions we make everyday life, like make the compound effect for that. So if you know how to integrate that yourself, you also have like a much bigger toolkit to actually teach that to others. Plus, you can be smart about it, right? You know, like, I don't know, like for example, if you always wanted to integrate a certain somatic exercise or practice in your professional skill set, you can use that, practice it already, and then also integrate it into your offer later on. So you can really expand, right? So there's a lot of expansion for the facilitator, him or herself.
Yeah, it sounds very good, because of course it's a lot of self-work as well as learning how to then apply some of the tools to other people. So it's very transformational, and 1 year is a big commitment, and of course if you do even half of what you tell them to do, at the end you're going to be a new person for sure. And I totally agree that life is lived in small moments. If you can have small habits that are conducive for good thinking, positive thinking, like taking care of yourself, self-love, connecting with others. Many people have the opposite, and when I was younger, I had to shift myself towards more kind of, feeling positive and feeling good, rather than having limiting beliefs and, the mind chattering, right? So bad.
Yeah, I mean, I really am a big fan of having a lot of practice. It's not just like theory and we have lectures, of course we have that too, but at the end of the day it's all about how can we implement what we learn, because through experience comes wisdom, right? So, and that's the highest form of knowledge we can have.
Koh Phangan, it's a lovely place, obviously, beautiful island, but why do you love Koh Phangan?
I love Koh Phangan because it's just the place for me. It's just like such a deep feeling of home when I'm here. Like I used to travel a lot, I was always exploring and wanted to find new places, and I couldn't sit still in that sense. And since I've been here, I was like, I don't even want to go to Koh Samui anymore. So like there's no need to leave the island for me, and I really feel home. I think like that's a very individual and personal experience. I would just simply say I found my place, for now. I mean, that might change in the future, God knows, but I think everyone else has their specific, place of fulfillment, home, or where it just simply feels great. And for me, it's Koh Phangan at the moment,
That's lovely. And of course, in the House of Light, which is the new space you're creating with Adrian, you're gonna have DMT breathwork and ecstatic dance, right?
Yes.
To start, and what days are you doing this on?
So we're like having ecstatic dance at the moment at Tuesday, and we're in the process of creating the schedule. So there will be more coming soon, and then you will see all the modalities, also shadow work and all the other workshops. So it's like in a soft launch phase at the moment.
Sort of in preparation for the high season, when lots of people are going to come to the island, and there are going to be so many opportunities to meet lovely people and have classes with them, right?
Yeah.
And you, in the House of Light, you also have sort of your studio where you do therapy as well? What's the ratio between sort of online versus in person at the moment?
At the moment, it's like almost 50-50, I would say. I try to keep the balance. So I have workshops on the island, one-on-one clients, but I also have one-on-one clients online, and then the school, of course, as well online.
Wow, well, thank you very much for coming and sharing, your life story, and also, quantum healing and all the projects you're doing in Koh Phangan. It's been a great pleasure getting to know you a little bit more.
Thank you so much for having me.
Kapun kap.
Yeah,